Let's draw and paint this scene from somewhere in Indonesia using mixed media. We will use this reference photograph by Susan Roghair to paint this scene. The list of materials and alternative materials is given in the description. Let's begin with a rough pencil sketch. When doing pencil sketch, keep the pressure extremely light because we need to erase the pencil strokes later. Observe how I am gripping the pencil here. My fingers are as much away from the tip as possible. This way, I am forced to draw pencil strokes with a light pressure. At this stage, our aim is to block the overall shapes and tighten the perspective for the painting. This is the best time to do any trials and commit as many errors as you like. Errors are very easy to correct at this stage. Now I will speed up the video, but you don't need to go fast here. Take as much time as you need in this phase of the painting. Once you are satisfied that the perspective, the broad shapes and their relationships with each other are correct, then move on to the next stage. Now let's begin the inking process. I am going to use a Fude fountain pen with waterproof ink for the line work. A Fude fountain pen has a special kind of nib which can be used to draw thick strokes from one side and thin strokes from the other side. You will see this in action during my inking process here. However, you do not need to worry if you don't have such a pen at your disposal. You may draw the line work using a ballpoint pen, a gel pen, a simple fountain pen, or a technical pen like Pigma micron. And you can achieve a similar, if not exactly the same effect. Don't bother to draw perfectly straight lines. A little wobbly lines look better than perfectly straight lines. During the inking process, it is better to draw the objects in the background first so that drawing the overlapping objects is not a big issue. Observe how I am darkening edges on one side of these metal stripes to create a sense of depth. If you are liking this video so far, please press the like button and subscribe to this channel. Also remember to press the bell icon to receive a notification whenever I upload a new video to this channel. We are now beginning to draw the houses on the far side of the carts. Draw these houses using thinner lines to indicate distance. Remember, objects at a distance will appear less vivid than the nearby objects. Let's draw this distant cart now. This cart is almost fully covered with drying clothes and its shape should reflect this. Let's finish drawing the furthest building now. While drawing these buildings, keep the details to a minimum and just draw some indication of shapes. Now I will begin blocking the darkest dark values using a black brush pen. I prefer to use a brush pen when I need to block large masses. This saves me some effort. If you do not have a brush pen, you can achieve a similar effect by painting the black shapes with black acrylic ink using a watercolor brush. Or you can darken those areas using pens by applying cross-hatching technique. Adding some shadow beneath the cards creates a sense of grounding for these objects. When darkening the inner part of any door like this, remember one important point. Keep some blank space within the dark part. This helps create a sense for the viewer that there are some people or objects in the room beyond the door. Otherwise, this black space will look like a hole in the paper rather than something tangible. But the same rule may not apply to the dark spaces which are further away from the viewer. Wherever you want somewhat light shadows, use hatching strokes. I am using the thinner tip of the Fude pen to draw hatching strokes. You may achieve a similar effect using a thin-tipped technical pen. After you finish the line work and before beginning the painting process, you may want to check that the ink is really dry. Apply a little bit of water to one corner of the line work using a brush and see if the ink smudges. If it does, wait for several minutes and try again. Draw some random dots and lines like this to indicate the rough texture of the road, but do not overdo this texture. Remember, the road is not the main subject of this painting and we do not want to draw too much attention to the road. I began with a thin layer of watercolor for painting the roofs. I have used browns and reds to paint the roofs. Mixing a little cool color like I have mixed magenta here will mellow down the strong red color of the roof. Use blue color to paint the doors behind the cart and the cart itself. The lower cart has a nice contrasting brown color and this color differentiates the two carts. There are many places in this painting where you may feel lost about which color to use. Remember that the yellow ochre is a nice neutral hue which can be used as a filler anywhere in this painting. It is not too bright and any other color can be painted over a surface painted using yellow ochre. Observe how I am freely mixing various paints when painting the distant objects. You do not need to paint the distant objects precisely. When painting this cart fully covered in clothes, leave out the part where clothes are covering the cart. For painting the foliage in the background, we will spatter some green and yellow paint and move this paint around using a brush. Again, we don't need to paint many details here, just some random tree shapes are enough. I am now going to paint some saturated tones using alcohol markers. If you do not have alcohol markers, you may use colored brush pens. You may even skip this step and continue using watercolor for the rest of the painting. The only reason I am using alcohol markers is their saturated tones and ease of use, but they are totally optional. Use brown paint for painting the shadows of some leaves on the ground. Keep these colors unsaturated because we do not want to draw too much attention to the ground. After the watercolor paints completely dry, use the pen to add some details like this. Now let's add some highlights using white paint. You may use poster white paint or acrylic paint for this purpose. We will use the same paint for painting the white clothes drying on this cart. Use this white paint to add highlights in various places in the painting and observe how these highlights lift the painting to a different level. Finally, use the white paint to add highlights to the ground. But just like the rest of the colors, keep the white paint less saturated when painting the ground. Use the pens to add any finishing touches you desire and our painting is done. If you like this video, subscribe to this channel now, like right now. Also, visit my website to browse my books, original artworks and merchandise. Happy painting!